Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. The subject of the discourse is self-control as the means for cultivating Vedananupassana, contemplation on feelings, and having complete control over the mind through this contemplation. Feeling contemplation is possible only through self-control. That is, having control over the senses. Now, last time we mentioned in Dhammapada 360 that Chakkuna sangvaro sadhu, sadhu sotina sangvaro, etc. It's good to have complete mastery or control, self-restraint over the senses of the eye, ear, etc. and over all our actions, bodily action, verbal action and mental actions. Now this particular gatha or verse was, you see, this Dhamma teaching was given by the Buddha on a certain occasion. Now, while he was staying in Jetavana, 5 monks had undertaken the practice of self-control, sangvara, by way of having control over their senses. So they found their senses were absolutely not under control at all. They would just go riot. Absolutely, they were quite helpless. The senses were, you see, not under their control. So they decided to do it in a very concentrated manner. So one of them said, well, I will specialize in controlling the eye, by the sense of eye, which means seeing. Whatever I see, I will have complete control over it, so that that way I will have control over the feelings which arise through the door of eye or the seeing, through the process of seeing. And seeing really means what? You are getting connected with the external world. The internal world of mind gets connected with the external world around through the door of eye, seeing. As soon as you see an object, and by seeing the object, you come with this the sense, eye sense, then the eye consciousness, and the object, visible form. These three get connected, and that is called contact or self-impression, which is a mental factor. So as soon as the eye becomes aware of an object, that is seeing, based upon that contact, there arises a feeling. Either the feeling is a pleasant one, or an unpleasant one, or a neutral one. Now this happens so fast and so rapid, so quick, that most people are unable to have, are not aware of this at all. Constantly this interaction is going on between the senses, bodily senses as well as the mental sense, and senses and the world. And you are interacting with the world all the time, external world or your internal mental world. So due to this interaction, these feelings completely overtake the mind, and if you have no control over it, then it overtakes the mind, leading to, craving, desire, lusting, and that is how you completely get caught. So feeling sets a chain reaction. When you feel, when a feeling arises due to this contact, you perceive that you are having this feeling. And that perception in turn, triggers off the process of thinking. And the thinking triggers off all kinds of mental activities. It's called proliferation of mental activities, leading to desire, tanha, craving, etc. And that is the involvement with the process of karma. Bodily action, verbal action, mental action. And keep on, a karma or action has a certain potency. It is capable of achieving a certain result. Now if you have no control over the feeling and thereby the mental process that sets, feeling sets, and then you allow the desire to come up, automatically you become a victim of action. You go on, what you desire, that you develop attachment for it, you cling to it, and keep on committing karmas ad infinitum and develop this kind of karmic potency within yourself, bringing about certain result. And the result is exactly what we call destiny. We are happy, we are miserable, we are successful, we meet with failures, all kinds of all the various experiences of life during this life, gets translated into a kind of cumulative karmic force, and at the time of death that catapults the consciousness into the next journey, which is the next life, starting with rebirth. So karma leads to rebirth, and rebirth leads again to the process of this cause-effect relationship, karma and its effects. And that is how the samsara chakra, the wheel of life, moves on and on ad infinitum. There is no end to this. And that is the true form of suffering. That is what Bhagavan Buddha said, dukkha arya satcha, the noble truth of suffering as a subjection to this samsara chakra, coming in again and again, dying again and again being born. And this happens because everything in samsara is changing. Changing simply means becoming different. So that change it's a dynamic change that goes on during the course of life. We are changing moment to moment. This dynamic change simply means change within change. That is change in motion. Now, every second that passes in our lives, we have lived that much of our life. That means our longevity, that much has been exhausted, and so on. So the change is the motion. Life itself is motion. Life is a course, yatra. It's a longevity, it's a course of living. So we are spending this course of living every second. So this exhaustion of the ayu or the living process, the vitality, that is one motion, which is going on from birth to death, in time and in space. It's happening. So within this yatra or movement, motion, life called motion or through various movements. Now this motion sets, it triggers up various movements, bodily, verbal, mental, etc. And the karmic activities are the, keep on going that way. And you keep on accumulating karmic, potency, and that leads again. So the cycle after cycle, wheel after wheel, that is life. So now, this dynamic change that goes on within, and also it is the same way bodily, every cell arises and passes away. Each time you breathe in, followed by breathe out. Now hundreds and thousands of cells come into being and they get burnt up, so to say, they die, followed by, or replaced by another cell. And this is happening with the breathing. And that is connected with the other systems of the body. The heart pumps, the blood flows into every cell. It's a very precise mechanism, our whole body. It's a very big machine indeed, working in a very perfect synchrony. So now, in this dynamic change that life really represents, unless we develop mindfulness, it is impossible for us to have self-control. The only way mindfulness, self-control alone can bring about control over feelings. And the self-control can be exercised and exerted only on the basis of mindfulness. So cultivation of mindfulness is the secret of having control over oneself, self-control, which also means control over the mind, control over our life, control over our karmic involvements, everything. Now this self-control, in order to bring about, because it ultimately simply means having control over destiny. If you begin with control over your senses, just by cultivating mindfulness, then a time will come when you will have control over your destiny, control over what you say, what you do, what you think, and that creates destiny. Here and now, in this life, and hereafter, all the future lives. So, self-control, that's a very, very important aspect of spiritual life. So these monks, these 5 monks that I was referring to, they undertook this. They had heard the discourse from Bhagavan many, many times. They said, okay, I will now specialize in controlling my eye, the sense organ. Seeing, that is having control over whatever I see. The other one said, okay, I will do the same with reference to my ear. I will not bother about eye, I will concentrate on ear. That is, whatever I hear, develop mindfulness in such a way that I have complete control over whatever I hear. Similarly, the other one said, whatever I smell. You see, then the other one said, whatever I taste. The other said, whatever bodily impression or comfort or all that, I experience, bodily touch. And the other one, and all these 5 senses, they, among themselves, they took up. And they saw, my goodness, though they tried to have control over one, the whole thing is such a complex, they can't, it doesn't work. So they thought it must be very, very hard. My system is the hardest one, each one. So they quarrel with each other one day. They said, no, my one is the most difficult. The other says, no, mine. So my sets in, and they start a conflict. So they say, look here, no use fighting, let's go to Bhagavan and ask him. So they went to Buddha, and Buddha heard them and said, Bhagavan, with great love, he is the Karuna Sagara, the ocean of compassion that he was. He said, Bang, because you can't separate this into separate senses into, and you can't specialize as such. They are all important. All are difficult, all are important. If you don't realize that they are all interconnected, and if you really have to have control over one sense, you've got to have control over the others as well. And you have to build, you must know what exactly it is by which you control your sense. You don't control your sense by suppressing or closing your eye, closing your ear. No. You just put on a sentry over the door of eye. If you want to have control over your property, you put a sentry in the gate, in your main gate, and say whoever comes in or whoever goes in, keep an eye. So now this sentry or security man, his job has just one job. Anybody coming in, he keeps an eye. He observes, he makes a note, and he says who it is. And he attends to that person. Or anybody going out, similarly the same thing. So all the five senses can be attended to by cultivating mindfulness. Mindfulness is one thing that can attend on any of the senses. You see. And all the senses do not simultaneously work anyway. Each one works with the mind as sense. So now, the Buddha said, okay, last time you have been fighting the same way. And now you are doing the same thing even now in this life. He said, what? Last time when? The Buddha said, in one of your lives in the past you did the same thing, and because of this quarreling and not really knowing how to control, you ended up by being swallowed by Yakhini. Yakhini is one of those celestial beings, who have got tremendous psychic power, and they can assume any form that they want. They belong to the Asura Loka. They are a very powerful being indeed, and they even fight with the Devas. So now they said, you are gobbled up by them because of your this very lack of self-control. That's what happened. They said, Bhagavan, please tell us about that life where we don't remember, we don't know. So Bhagavan said, okay, you hear it. Then he recalled this, what is called Takkasila Jataka. Takshasila. It is very close, it is in Pakistan today. And it's close, it was at that time known as Gandhara, a part of our modern Gandhara or Kandahar or this Afghanistan and so on. So now, you see, as I mentioned, that we are in a state of dynamic change. Change within change. Change in motion. And intrinsic change going while in motion. So now, it doesn't refer only to our lives, our body and mind. The whole universe, the same thing. It applies to everything in the world. That is how you see the times change, ages change, human nature changes, lifetime changes. Now there are times when human being lives easily 1,000 years, or 10,000, or even 50,000. It goes on, and the human form changes, human society changes, the way of thinking and acting changes. They create different civilizations altogether. So this kind of change goes on everywhere. That is called the law of impermanence, anicca. Change inherent in everything. Whether in inward life, inward world, or outward world, anywhere. It is change stops only in one place, that is in Nibbana. Nibbana is not subject to impermanence or change. That is eternal peace and happiness. That is the nature, and that is the goal of spiritual life. As soon as you attain that, you become an enlightened one. You wake up to the ultimate reality. You become an awake, an enlightened one, to the ultimate reality, and you are released from the bonds of samsaric existence, which is characterized by change, a dynamic change all the time. So now, the Buddha recalled the story. I will give in brief, it's quite a longish Jataka. Jataka means the past, the story of Buddha's past lives. 552 Jatakas are there. Buddha recalled them one after the other, on various occasions during his 45 years of mission of compassion. So Bhagavan, whenever an occasion arose where he saw that the person has a potential for spiritual transformation, for entering into the stream that leads directly to Nibbana, to the transcendental state of freedom. So, then he would recall if any association happened to be there. So in this case, these 5 monks were, when he was a bodhisattva and a prince in the kingdom of Varanasi, and his father was known as Brahmadatta, a Chakravarti Maharaja. At that time, lifetime was very different, and they had tremendous powers. Powers of locomotion, all kinds of powers they had, human beings. So now, this king had 100 sons, because he was a Chakravarti. And the Bodhisattva happened to be the last prince, the 100th one. Now at that time there was no Buddha Sasana, no dispensation of a supremely enlightened Buddha as we are privileged to have now. Our Bhagavan Buddha, Lord Gautama, his dispensation continues for 5,000 years, human years.